All right, and we are live. Hello, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to a brand new episode of the Pastrami Nation Podcast. I'm Kevin. Joining me today is my son, Eli. What's going on, man?
Nothing much, just trying to help some friends with their drama.
With their drama? Oh, we don't need that on this
No,
show. This
no,
show's
we don't.
drama-free. We try to stay as drama-free as possible on this show, especially teenage drama.
Teenage drama.
I watch enough of that on the CW. Yeah, right. And of course, co-founder of Pastrami Nation himself, Mr. Jason Smith. How you doing today, sir?
Good. How you guys doing?
Oh, we're doing fantastic. Y'all, we have a very, very special guest with us today. We're really, really excited to have him. He's a comic book illustrator. He's a comic book writer. He's a rollerblade enthusiast. He's got all these things that he just absolutely loves. And he's here to talk about his new book, Godzilla, Skate or Die, which is a new series coming out from IDW on June 12th. Welcome to the show, everyone. Louie Joyce, how you doing today, sir?
I'm very well. I'm stoked to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, we're stoked to have you here, all the way from Australia, which is pretty cool. That's awesome. Thank you for joining us. So first, before we dive into like Godzilla and the books and everything, let's get to know you a little bit. So I'm curious. So you started out as a graphic designer and you've worked your way into comics. Can you talk a little bit about that journey and kind of what inspired you to get into the comic book world?
Yeah, I mean, definitely I did work in graphic design for a while, but comics are something that that has been around me for as long as I can remember. So I've loved comics since I was a kid. I loved drawing as a kid. I think a lot of kids do really enjoy the act of, drawing and creating, like creating things on paper with pens. And the two really went hand in hand for me, comics and drawing. And a lot of my early drawing skills and exploration were fueled by my love of comics and the characters and the worlds and the stories that I was reading. So comics have been with me since I was super young. My dad collects comics. Like he's always been a comic reader. Yeah, so they were around, and he has a very eclectic comics taste. But and so I didn't always fully appreciate his collection. But we would be at the comic store a lot, and I would I immediately glommed onto like X-Men was huge for me when I was a kid, and it was like right in the 90s cartoon era and the video game era and all of that. So I really loved superhero comics as a kid growing up, and that completely fueled and inspired my love of drawing and storytelling as well. But I never really thought I would be a comic book artist. I think early on I would have said that's what I wanted to be, but I did end up, I ended up kind of going down the graphic design route a little bit, working at a screen printing company and doing things like color separations and merchandise design and things like that. But I always just kept reading comics and as a medium, as a storytelling medium, it was always the one that I loved and appreciated most and felt the most connected to. And it continued. I continued drawing and making zines and telling stories and finally got to the point where I was like, I should give it a go, like this drawing thing that I love doing. My wife found an illustration course that was in Sydney. And so I applied to get into that. I had to do a drawing test, and thankfully my skills were at a level enough to get me into that. But doing that course certainly like gave me the skill set that I needed to then work professionally as an illustrator, as a freelance illustrator, which I have been doing since that course. And then comics, would just, again, it was something I did in my spare time and I continued to make, and it slowly has become a much larger part of my work and my passion and all of that.
Yeah, no, very cool. Well, you said you grew up with comics and stuff like that. Were there any particular artists or anything that you really gravitated towards that just really gripped you and made you want to draw in the first place?
Yeah, absolutely. So like Chris Pacello or Bacalo, I can never know what's the right pronunciation of his name, but he's the artist on Generation X at the time was
Oh,
like
okay.
a defining
Generation X, I remember
series,
that.
a defining series for me. It was
Yeah.
like the teen X book in the mid 90s. Chris Picciello drew like most of the first 25 issues or so, and it was just like huge for me. I just was obsessed and still am pretty obsessed with that comic. And him as an artist he's just an incredibly fascinating experimental kind of artist. His style has shifted and changed a lot over time, and it's really cool to kind of look at the different eras of him as an artist and how he approaches drawing different things and how that changes over time. And so he was a really big, and still is a really big influence for my own work. But there are so many, you know, you see all these different comics lying around, and for a long time I didn't even click that people made them. They were just these, you know, amazing objects that would be in my hand. And once you do start exploring the credits box and attributing certain artistic styles to certain artists, it's a really fun thing to explore all of that, all the different ways that different artists might draw a tree or bricks or foliage or character, or, you know, and start to break down all those like stylistic elements and things. So I often talk about comics, just reading comics and being like a classroom for me in a lot of ways, because so much of my artistic inspirations and language is just from reading comics as a kid.
Right. Oh, very cool. And you've also like done some like animation, correct? Like on your website, some really, really cool animation. What kind of, are you inspired by animation at all? Like to do those things?
Yeah, definitely. Animation was huge. So like, I've always loved animation, but certainly seeing Akira at a young age, probably far younger than I should have seen it. But you know, like the VHS anime boom of the 90s, I was completely in that. So much of those early 90s anime films I would be getting from my local, you know, Civic Video 7 weeklies every week, and just like completely wearing them out. So yeah, films like Akira, Ghost in the Shell, a lot of the Studio Ghibli stuff. We had like Totoro on VHS and going through all of those. Like so much of Japanese animation has been hugely influential for me, you know. And then as a kid also just falling completely into Pokemon, but then also Dragon Ball Z, shows like this. I spent so much of my high school classes just drawing Goku.
Because I am loving, like, I've watched all of Naruto and Naruto Shippuden. I want to start DBZ. I'm watching One Piece and Bleach. I'm watching so much. I do have a quick anime question for you. Have you watched the new Ghost in the Shell show on Netflix?
No, I haven't. I'm behind. I think the last Ghost in the Shell show that I watched was the first standalone complex season, but that was a while ago. So I've got to catch up on a lot. Is it good?
Yes.
Yeah. Nice. And it's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. I'll have to see if it's on our Aussie Netflix, because I haven't seen it pop up, but I'm always looking.
It's called Ghost in the Shell 2045.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's a big anime kid. Everything. We're actually, for his graduation, he wants to take a trip to Japan. So that's what we're going to do. And he wants to go check it all out and stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That would be amazing.
And that's where they all get created over there too.
Yeah.
I remember when I was in art school, there was the teachers, every syllabus said, we discourage you guys to draw in the anime style unless you can draw like, what was the guy that did, the big guy, the main guy that did, I think it was, but it said, if you cannot draw like him, please do not continue in this style. And some kids were like, oh, that's being mean. And the teachers were stressing that all the jobs for that are out there, you know, they're created in Japan.
Yeah.
So, unless you plan on moving there.
Yeah. No. I mean, it's awesome. Yeah, no.
Well, I mean, now we have studios over here that's doing that kind of stuff.
We do. Yeah. I mean, as a comic artist working in Australia, you know, that wasn't possible the way that I do. I've never been over to the States. I've never been to a comic convention over there. I've never had to meet editors in person and stuff, and that wasn't possible for Australian artists to do 20, 30 years ago. So it's a more modern thing that through the internet and all of this, it's that you can work globally, and have these relationships globally and still get your work seen and out there. It's cool.
Definitely.
That is really cool. That's one thing I am curious about. Like, I like to know just kind of different different areas of the world and stuff. Like, how big is comic culture really big out there? Obviously you guys have Comic Cons and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Is it pretty massive part of pop culture over there?
It is. It can be. It is, and it isn't. Like, it's hard to say completely. We do have two big comic conventions that happen that usually have a show in most capital cities every year. And we do actually have like a lot of really, really great regional smaller shows that are usually run by local councils or libraries. Right. So it has gotten a lot bigger over the past 10, 15 years. And a lot of that is just due to the explosion of pop culture as a phenomenon. But it was really big in the 90s. There was a big Australian comics boom in the 90s, and a lot of big conventions that were happening back then. And so it's kind of cyclical. I think it really boomed in the 90s and then kind of disappeared a bit, and then it's kind of peaked back up, and I think it'll continue to do that. But there is always a really strong community of creators making some really great and interesting comics, and really varied and diverse, because there's sometimes it's people making stuff in the American kind of monthly Marvel DC model, but there's also like a really, really amazing zine culture here. So people that are making more experimental or independent black and white comics, non-superhero, non-mainstream kind of stuff that's being done. And that's something that I really love about the Australian scene at the moment, is the zine culture, and the people that are creating work in that is like amazing, really fantastic.
That's really cool. I love hearing that. That's great. Speaking of pop culture, listen, Godzilla, probably one of the biggest pop culture icons in the world, right?
Slightly big.
Slightly big, literally big, but also, just big as a whole. So I first I got to ask, so you got this new book, Godzilla, Skate or Die. What inspired you to jump into the world of Godzilla? Like,
the kaiju verse,
the kaiju verse, if you will. Was there any kind of like, and don't take this like the wrong way, was there any kind of hesitation? Like, because Godzilla is such a massive phenomenon. Was there any, like, were you nervous about it? And was it just something that you just were excited about, so you did it? Let's talk about that. Like, first of all, how did you come up with this idea for Godzilla, Skate or Die?
Yeah, so it's been a long process. I was originally contacted by Jasmine Joyner, an editor at IDW, about pitching an idea for the Godzilla Rivals series. And I don't know if you've read that series, but it's kind of like an anthology-based series. So each issue is around a 40-page story, different artists or different group of creators telling that story. And it's usually a self-contained one-off story. And so that seemed to me a very not so intimidating. Of course, Godzilla itself is an intimidating prospect, but super exciting. Like, you don't, like, I was like, oh, that's Godzilla. That's wild, but also like, yes, or how can I do this? Of course I want to do this. So I was super excited. And a 40-page story, to me, a self-contained, done in one issue, felt very achievable as an idea, as a concept to deal with. So I originally just pitched a story for that, which was inspired. So I got back into rollerblading with the pandemic. I used to do it as a teenager. I got back into it, and it's kind of have completely taken over my own creative arts practice. I draw heaps of rollerblading drawings. A lot of those animations you mentioned are all rollerblading stuff. So I kind of am working that stuff. I just am frothing on skating and skate culture, and I love it. And if I can work it into anything that I'm doing, I will absolutely do that. And they had their guidelines for what to pitch were very wide. You know, there was really not a lot of they were open to whatever kind of story ideas I wanted to do. So I immediately was like, yes, Godzilla, a list of monsters to pick from. How can I work rollerblading or skating into this somehow?
Yeah.
and I did. And it was actually inspired by a skate park, a local DIY skate park in Port Kembla, which is a suburb near where I live in Wollongong. And during the pandemic, some friends of mine had started a DIY skate park just on a concrete slab there. So they started building some boxes and rails and putting them there. And I immediately started going down there and had been skating there and taking my kids down there. And a community had kind of grown around this spot, and a lot more stuff had been built and added, and it had become quite, you know, comprehensive and a really fun, nice community space to skate. And then we got word that the council they were like, this has to go, it can't be here, we're going to demolish it. And of course the community was just like, no, this can't happen. Like, this is it's a concrete slab that nothing is happening on. We are enriching it. We are creating something of value in this space. We can't let this happen. And actually, the whole community got together to fundraise and rally, and we managed to stop the skate park from being
that's awesome, being
demolished, and even so far as getting a permanent skate park sign put there. And then the community has also gotten a grant to build a permanent skate park, like actual concrete skate park facilities there. So all of that just goes to show that there is this strong community around this space.
Yeah.
But just that idea of the council being like this big entity, you know, this big unwieldy entity that was about to just stomp on this thing of value. Yeah. Right there was the spark for my Godzilla story. And it felt like a fitting kind of natural place for me to start. And so the whole kind of story stems from that. And the story does take place in Port Kembla. It is about a group of kids trying to save their DIY spot. It's all influenced by my local area and town and skate culture and all of these things. And I feel really excited to be able to do that in a Godzilla book, you know, with Godzilla and Baron and kind of add this weird little niche to the Godzilla mythos, you know.
That's so
it's cool because you're actually in that world, like skating and stuff, you know, like like how old were you when you started to skate, you know, like
I started in 99, so I think it was around 99. I remember playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater at my friend's house, right in the thick of that. And then we went out and he had just gotten a pair of blades and I had to go, and I was just like, far out. This is like, because I tried skateboarding too, but I could never quite get it. And rollerblading, something about rollerblading I just really, really loved. And in the 90s and the late 90s, rollerblading as a sport was at its peak of popularity. It had reached this crazy level, and it in the 2000s it really crashed hard. But there was a peak time for that kind of thing, and I really fell in love with it as an activity.
In the 90s, it was booming, you know.
Yeah,
like,
it was.
Tell you a
amazing
funny story. It saved me. I think when I was in 11th grade, my mom had got me a pair of rollerblades. Back then, I could actually skate, but I wouldn't bother to try now. But I would skate and I'd go, and there was a group of guys, like they were the local punk boys from the high school, and I had my shoes around my neck, you know, because you had my shoes down to walk a certain part, and they seen me and, hey, what kind of shoes are those, bro? And I already knew what that was going to lead to, but I was on rollerblades, so they couldn't catch me. They all, like 5 of them started to run after me, but a couple of steps, I'm long gone. If I didn't have those rollerblades, I would have lost my shoes.
Yeah.
What kind of shoes are you?
They were just like your average Reeboks, like nothing fancy, but these guys were the high school punks, you know, like they probably would have took my wallet and everything, honestly.
Yeah,
this wasn't at the school. This was like just on a street, like blocks away. And I had seen them over there, and they're like, "What kind of shoes are them, bro?" And I was just like, "Don't worry about it." And then they're like, "Hey, come here." And then I was
yeah,
gone.
not words you want to hear.
Yeah, they tried to run, but I ditched them so fast because I was on wheels, and I'm like, thank God for skates.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, there's something. I do have to say, there's something really cool about an image, especially like an animated image or an illustrated image of someone on rollerblades, like doing like some really cool. Like, there was this game back in the day. I don't know if y'all. I wouldn't say back in the day. I think it was early 2000s. Was Jet Set Radio Future.
Yeah.
So it had that really cool anime style, but they had the rollerblades on and stuff like that, and it just looked so cool. Like, it made me want to learn how to rollerblade.
Yeah.
And of course,
you guys remember that movie? Prayer of the Roller Boys.
Oh,
I've never seen it. I've never seen it. Yeah, I need to see it.
Hackers is one of my all-time favorites.
I dressed up as a Hackers character, as the Matthew Lillard character, just recently, just the other week for a friend's
That's awesome.
40th 90s theme. It was great.
One of my friends, we got to meet the Screamcast at Comic-Con over here, and one of my friends was like, you have to, when you see Lillard, you have to hack the world. You just have to tell him. I wussed out though at the last minute. I can't yell that at Matthew Lillard.
You gotta.
I know, I almost did, but I wussed out. So Godzilla skater.
Something related to Shaggy.
You probably would have said something related to Shaggy. I think you did. I don't remember. Godzilla Skate or Die. The first issue comes out June 12th. Is it going to be a monthly series? And how many issues are there in your series?
It's 5 issues in total. So it's a 5-issue miniseries. It is monthly from June. I am writing, drawing, coloring, pretty much everything, which is
that's a task.
Definitely the biggest project I've done to date. I've done a bunch of comic projects, but usually I collaborate with writers. A lot of the stuff I write myself is usually shorter form, zine-based stuff. But for this, I had this story and I really wanted to do it. So I'm having a blast doing it all, and just also trying to get it done and out on time and all of those things. It's ballooned out into this big kind of 5-issue miniseries from that initial 40-page pitch, and that's allowed me a lot more room to really focus on all the different characters I have in there. It's 4 main characters, and they kind of have built this DIY skate park in the abandoned steelworks that exist in Port Kembla, and for some reason Godzilla is approaching from the ocean and Varan is approaching from inland, and they're kind of both seem to be beelining towards these steelworks, which is right where the skate park is. And the kids just can't even fathom that this crazy situation is happening. And, they're teenagers, so they kind of do some silly things and think they can, teenage drama, they think they can get in there and save their spot. But really they just get wrapped up into this whole big crazy experience. I'm having a blast drawing it and writing it. It's been a really, really fun kind of dream project to work on.
Oh, that's so cool. When you're like when you're writing it and illustrating it and all that stuff, do you find there's totally different like skill sets that you have to tap into, or is it pretty much flow? Since you're doing all of it, are you able to vision it pretty clearly in your head instead of having,
I definitely I am breaking the process up so that I can deliver it to editors at different stages. But I do, so I write a full script for it. But sometimes the script can be quite vague depending on what I need to kind of think about for each page and what the editor just needs to know in terms of what they can expect. I do normally, for shorter projects, I'll normally do like a thumbnail script. So I'll do little thumbnails of pages as I'm going and then write little bits and pieces. But because there's a lot more dialogue in this and plotting that I have to do for this, I'm doing scripts, and then I'm doing my thumbnails, and then I'm doing, final page art. And it's a new experience, but it's one I'm kind of fine tuning as I go. And I'm actually having a really fun time writing. I never really considered myself a writer before, but I'm actually having a really fun time and with that part of the process, and also giving myself the time and segmenting that part off by itself, just to fully focus on writing as an exercise instead of incorporating my usual drawing / writing techniques. And I'm quite enjoying that part of the process, actually.
That's cool. Yeah, I can imagine it's just exercising a different part of your artistic abilities, which I think is really, really cool. That's awesome. So yeah, everyone look out for that June 12th, first issue. The next, we have to talk about Haphaven, the deluxe edition. It's coming out June 4th, I see here. So tell us a little bit. So Haphaven's a book that came out. I don't remember exactly when it came out, but I do remember.
2019, I think.
2019, yeah. I do remember reading it and just absolutely loving it. I love the story. I love the whole world of superstition.
Do we have it here?
No, we don't. It's put away right now. Yeah. I have it in a box. I'm still unpacking stuff and everything, but so I'm curious on that book. So so Norm Harper wrote it, and you came along as an illustrator. Was that something did you guys work on it pretty tandemly together with the idea and everything, or how did you get on board with Haphaven?
So Norm contacted me about it. He had read Past the Last Mountain, which was a comic that I did with Paul Allor, and so I think he had seen my work on that, and he had written an outline for the story and was in the process of fine-tuning the script. So he had done a lot of character bios and the story outline and was working his way through the script when he contacted me. And he just contacted me via email and explained that he enjoyed my work and that he was working on this project he thinks I'd be a good fit for. And I just he just got me to do a few sketches of some of the characters and some key things based on his outline. And of course, when I read the outline and the idea for the story, I immediately thought,
so cool,
this is fantastic. Like, this is such a cool concept. It sounds like a lot of fun to draw. I hadn't read Norm's work before, but I checked out some of his other stuff that he'd done, and I really liked his writing from what I'd seen in the script and his previous comics. So I was keen to do it, and I went all out on these sketches and had a really good time drawing them. And then he liked what I did, and so he got me on board to illustrate the story. And then he was continuing to write the script as I started drawing pages. So he would deliver me like a section of the script, and then another as he was fine tuning the second half. He would give me like the first act and then the second act. But so because of that kind of organic process that we had, it felt really collaborative in that things that I would do kind of would affect some of his ideas or ways to approach things in later stages of the script. And it was a really, really nice collaborative experience on that book. I had such a good time making it. I think as a kid, as a middle grade reader's book, or I tend to think of it as an all ages book.
It is.
I had it. Yeah, my youngest, my eldest son, but he was 3 at the time. So, he was running around me, and I definitely had this feeling of knowing that I was making a book that I was going to be able to read with my kids and these things. So it's one of my favorite projects I've done. I had such a really good time working on it.
So yeah, such a cool story. I absolutely loved it too. And I was an adult reading it, and I was like, this is really cool. It's just got that magic and that really cool. Alex is such like a almost relatable character to everybody, right? When they're that age, like, I could think back and just all kinds of stuff, and how she's into the superstitions and I love just, she literally steps on a crack and breaks her mom's back.
It's a great concept.
It's crazy. It's insane. And I absolutely love it. So tell us about the deluxe edition. Was there a lot of stuff added to the deluxe edition? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So the deluxe edition is a beautiful new hardcover edition that's coming out through Oni Press June 4th, and it has a whole bunch of behind the scenes kind of creative process features in the back.
I love that.
So the main story itself is the same, and it's just going to be kind of recollected in this beautiful new edition, but again with a whole bunch of backup material, process sketches, character sketches, thumbnails, process of a page, all this kind of stuff. Brand new cover on the book. It was tempting for me to, you know, a new edition. It's tempting to go back and look at pages and think about, you know, oh, maybe I could, maybe I could fix this little bit or do this little change. But then at a certain point, I was just like, no, I was really happy with it. I am still really happy with it. I don't want to like George Lucas it and like go in and start making all these changes and adding things in. So just getting to do the new cover was really, really fun. Getting to kind of dip my toes back into that world and kind of, it's weird drawing a comic like that. You really feel like you become like the characters in it become a part of like your life, you know, like they become actual friends and people that you connect with and come to know, and the way that you envision them and relate to them changes over, you know, you draw a character for 140 pages, you spend so much time with them, you know, thinking about them and all the different aspects of their character. And so it was really nice to do the new cover and just get to spend some time with them again.
Yeah, no, I legitimately cannot wait to get it. Just a beautiful hardcover, just sitting there. It looks gorgeous, and I can't wait to show it off to everyone. It's super exciting, very, very excited. Well, you know, congratulations on everything. This Godzilla Skate or Die is going to be awesome. Yes. I'm very, very excited for it. I know a lot of people we're all in the Godzilla mode right now. We all want more Godzilla. And
it's very like IDW is especially like the amount of amazing looking Godzilla comics that are coming out over the next few months. It's just incredible. Like Skate or Die is going to be amazing, but then you've also got, there's another Australian who's doing a Godzilla Rivals issue. Nice. I can't remember the name of it. Jake, I think it's Jake Lawrence is doing an issue, but I saw that the other day on Instagram and I was like, oh my God, that looks incredible. And then there's an all ages Godzilla book coming out, Monster Island Summer Camp.
That sounds cool.
Looks like just can't wait to get my hands on it and read that one. It's a really good time to be a Godzilla fan, I think. And I've had a great, because I don't really consider myself, I'd seen, you know, the original Godzilla and I'd seen a few Godzilla films, but I wasn't like a crazy, I appreciate the character and the world and its significance in pop culture.
Right.
But really with this project, I've been able to really just dive into Godzilla and the world of Godzilla and the fandom of Godzilla. And it's just been so much fun. Like it's such a rich tapestry, a rich world, a rich kind of place to tell stories. So I'm stoked to be part of it.
That's so awesome. So you would probably say it's a dream project for you. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
It's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So before we get going here, do you have any advice for people trying to break in it, whether it's illustrator, writer, anything like that? Like if you had one piece of advice to give people, just be like, you know, do you have any that you would just like to put out there and let people know, hey, you know, if you're looking to do this, let's, what's your advice?
Yeah, I think collaboration is really beneficial. So, you know, for a long time, I would just make my own little comics and that's really good. And I would make zines and I would put them out there. But it really wasn't until I started collaborating with other writers and other creatives that I would be pushing myself to new heights. I think I would get pushed outside my comfort zone. I would be drawing things that I wouldn't always draw myself. The collaborative process itself creates relationships with other people who are trying to you know, break into comics or make things, and these relationships are super beneficial because you can just talk process, you can just talk life, you can ask people questions, you can bounce ideas. It's been really beneficial for me to have people like, you know, Ryan Lindsay is an Australian writer who I've worked with a whole bunch of times, and we have this, you know, great friendship and relationship that exists because of comics, and we only ever see each other at comic conventions and things like this. But he's actually one of my like a really, really great mate, you know.
So cool.
And it was because of like the work that I'd done with him that he connected me with Paul Allor, who is another really good writer and a really good friend whose work with him that I did that Norm Harper saw. So really having these connections and these collaborative relationships has been super beneficial. And it just, making comics can be such an isolated art form at times. It allows you to get out of that and you know, connect with people, and I think that's really important. The other advice I always give is just start small, short comics, mini comics, do zines. If you can do like a really, really great 8-page zine or mini comic, you can expand all those skills out into like some big epic, you know, graphic novel or 5-issue mini series. But awesome. All of those skills that you need exist in that 8-page thing, and an 8-page thing is much more manageable and accomplishable, and you learn it all doing that. So that's the other advice that I usually pass on.
Now, is there a specific character or license? Like if somebody says you can do any character, any license, what would that be?
I mean,
besides doing you're doing the dream right now with Godzilla.
Yeah, Godzilla feels like, I mean, if Godzilla Skate or Die is the only thing I ever do, I'll be like absolutely stoked with that. But if I had like a monkey's paw that was going to do it, I mean, monkey's paw always brings negative stuff, so maybe not a monkey's paw.
Rabbit's
rabbit's paw. More Haphaven appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. There you go.
X-Men is the series that I just am the diehard fan.
That's
for.
awesome.
And that would be the one that I would go. But, you know, there's so many. And I think part of the joy of some of those licensed things is maybe sometimes the less connected you are to it, sometimes it allows you to find like a unique way, fresh way into it, and you become a fan in the process of doing it. So, yeah, I'm open to a lot of stuff.
No, that's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much, Louie, for being here. We really, really appreciate it. Can't wait to read. So Godzilla Skate or Die one more time comes out June 12th, and Haphaven Deluxe Edition comes out June 4th. Check it out. You could probably buy those at your local comic book stores. Do you have any other, like, can they get them from your website or anything too if they wanted to, or the IDW's website? I
think local comic shops is the best place to go for Godzilla. I'll probably have some copies with me at conventions and thing. I have an online store where you can get some of my other graphic novels. So A Fistful of Pain is a kind of short comic graphic novel that I did last year with Ryan. So I'll have that up on my store.
Where's your store, or what's your website?
If you just go to louiejoyce.com, it has kind of links for everything. Past the Last Mountain, a book that I mentioned earlier that I did with Paul Allor in 2017 and Gannon Beck. That's also getting a digest edition release this year.
Sweet.
I think that's out in July as well. So if you hit up your local stores, they should have the information. But and then once that's post-release, you can usually find this stuff online somewhere.
Yeah, that's really cool. I was looking at the deluxe hardcover of Haphaven. It's not like Barnes and Noble. You can pre-order.
Yes, I think it gets a bookstore release slightly later. I'm not sure how that works, but comic stores definitely is June 4th, and then it'll be in bookstores and things like that too.
Awesome. Well, very cool. Yeah. Thank you again, Louie, for being here. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for checking out the show. If you happen to get the audio version, thank you. The audio version will come out in a couple of weeks. Keep an eye out for that. We really appreciate you guys. Don't forget to check out Pastrami Nation on all socials. We're on Instagram, Twitter, or X, whatever it's called now. I don't even know. Pinterest, whatever it is.
It's called Twix.
Twix, whatever it is. Pinterest, wherever you want to find it. You can find me, Kevin Hoskinson, or Kevin_Hoskinson on all those things as well. Jason, you can find him on MySpace and Friendster and all those other things. Napster.
Nice.
This kid, he's 17, so you're not getting any of his information. But Louie, other than your website, do you have any socials or anything that you can throw out?
At Louie Joyce on Instagram is the main one. My website has links to most other things. It's at Louie Joyce on most things. Twitter, I think I'm on Twitter at Louie Joyce as well. That's the main places.
Awesome. Sounds good. Thank you again, Louie. Thank you all for
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Of course. No, it was an absolute honor, an absolute joy. You're more than welcome anytime if you ever want to come on. Feel free to stop by.
I'd love to nerd out about anime with you.
Oh yeah,
yeah. Let's do an anime chat. I always want to talk anime with people.
Awesome.
Yep, let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Thank you all. Y'all have a good night. We'll see y'all next week. Bye bye.
See ya.
Thank you guys.